Hey everyone, I'm here with another creation video for a piece that I did for a group show. This was a Gothic literary themed show called A Dream Within a Dream, and I struggled with this one a lot more than I thought I would. Initially, at the beginning, I didn't really want to go into doing something really vampy and very dark, so I opted for a sort of dreamy, ethereal kind of feel, something a little ghostly, and I wanted it to be really feminine and very pretty. This piece is loosely based around the author Anne Radcliffe, who's sort of known as the mother of Gothic literature. She wrote a bunch of Gothic novels. She found fame through her third novel called The Romance of the Forest, and she went on to influence other writers like Edgar Allan Poe and Jane Austen and that sort of thing. She's known for having these really strong female characters, which was at the time not very typical. And I wanted it definitely to stay feminine, but I also wanted to bring in that Gothic horror kind of creepy edge to it, that soft terror that she always had in her writing. So that was kind of a really difficult balance, to be honest. There were a lot of stops and starts, and I did a lot of 180s before I got to a finished point with this. And it was new to add the hair as well, because I haven't added any fiber hair to any of the pieces I've done, so this was the first time I did that. So that was exciting. This brush that I'm using is a Loew Cornell brush. It's a liner brush and it's a 00 size brush. You can get it pretty much anywhere. I think you can just order these on Amazon. I usually get all of my art supplies through Dick Blick or Jerry's Artarama. That's a good place as well. I'll leave a few links down below of some really great online art stores. This was the first piece that I've really used any fiber hair on, and I've worked with fiber hair before for doll wigs and that sort of thing, and usually it's been Suri alpaca, which is a washed and conditioned and treated alpaca. So you buy it and it comes in these lovely bundles and it's all brushed out and smooth and there are no bits in it and it's just lovely to work with, you know. So this time I thought I would get some teeswater locks, and those are really different. So those have been dyed, but they haven't been brushed. So you get the natural formation of curls as they grow from the alpaca. So that's really different to work with. Usually in the past when I've made doll wigs, I'll make a bunch of wefts and then I'll cut those up into various sizes and lay those down in tracks on the wig cap. But it's really different with the teeswater because you can't make a nice clean edge and you can't brush it out, because as soon as you start brushing it out, it just turns into frizz. So you kind of have to leave it the way it is if you want to maintain those gorgeous curls. It was definitely a challenge to work with. So I paint the iris first, and then I do the pupils and the whites of the eyes, the sclera, last, because that way I can clean up any overpainting that I've done. So I can get a nice clean edge around the iris, then the pupil can cover up any other paint that overlaps in the center. Because if I put pupil on first and the whites of the eyes, I'm just going to end up getting mess all over the both of them, so I just add those on last. I leave a gap for the waterline, but after I finish the eyes, I will go in and paint over the waterline just to make sure that it's there and it hasn't gotten sort of, a stray pastel on it and a bit murky. You'll see here I'm adding a shadow to the top of the eye, which I just do with a regular pastel. And after that, I'll go back in and I'll put the little catch lights in. So the first catch lights that I add in are placeholders, so that I know where the catch lights are going to go. Because I find if I don't line those up properly, then they can be a little bit off center if you just sort of pop them on afterwards. So I like to have an idea of where they should go so that she can have a correct gaze. And here is where I'm making the armature for the horns, and it's just floral wire that I'm just twisting together. Now, I didn't think this through particularly well because I made the little bits of armature, which was great, but I didn't make them long enough so I didn't have anything to hold on to, which was obviously a really big problem. I sort of start off and I make the first horn, or I start the first horn, then I realize that I've just got nothing to hold on to, so I have to tear it apart, and then I actually put some little toothpicks so that I can actually sculpt and have something to hold on to. The clay that I use is Apoxie Sculpt. It's a two-part epoxy, so you have the grey half and the white half, and you just mix equal parts of those. It dries in probably about 3 to 4 hours, and it has a working time of about an hour before it starts to set up. And it'll continue to take impressions after that first hour, but really you want to get most of your sculpting done within that first hour. That's when it's going to be at its most malleable. I find that it's easiest to use small amounts and just mix little bits of it as I need it, rather than mix up a larger amount which then sits there and starts going hard before I have a chance to get to it. And I like the Apoxie Sculpt because it's an air drying clay, so I don't have to bake it or mess around with anything like that. And it dries rock solid, and then it becomes drillable and sandable and all of that good stuff. But you do have to work in layers with it if you're doing a larger sculpt. You've got to sort of plan around the drying time. So to make the buns, all I did was I just sculpted little balls of clay and then I glued the hair around it, just wrapping it around and around. And then the hair on her head, I just glued it to the back and lay it over the front, and then secured it wherever I needed to. And you'll see a little crown sitting there in the background because originally that was one of the ideas that didn't make it through. So I sculpted a whole bunch of stuff that I thought I might add in that I ended up not adding in, and yeah, it was just a real challenge to bring it all together in the end. And there's a lot of footage that I don't have of things that I did, because the thing that I find difficult about filming is trying to split my focus. So especially if it's something like this where it's new and I've not done it before and I'm sort of trying to figure things out as I go, I find it really difficult to remember to keep turning the camera on and off to make sure that things are in focus, make sure that the lighting is correct, make sure that I'm staying in frame. All of that kind of stuff becomes really difficult to keep tabs on when I'm trying to focus on just sculpting a thing or making a thing or working through specific problems with a piece that I'm working on. So there tends to be like footage that's not usable because I have forgotten to turn the camera back on again, or I am out of frame, or it's not in focus. So these things tend to be a really big problem. So yeah, I didn't turn it on for everything that I did because towards the end it was starting to get really stressful when I was trying to figure out how I was going to make it all work. And I found that I just wanted to make the piece work. I wanted to do the best piece that I could rather than worry about whether or not I had good footage. So she was quite difficult to put together, but in the end she was very well worth it. I'm really pleased with how she turned out. I think she's absolutely adorable. She has just the right look that I want, and I really love the contrasting colours. I think that's probably my favourite thing, is the contrast of the nice icy blues with the very vibrant, rich, visceral looking red. I hope you enjoyed that. It is a slightly longer video than I intended because, gosh, it just took me forever to make. And yeah, I was trying to film as much as I could, and there were a lot of bits and pieces and stuff that went into this, so I'll try and do a better job next time of filming things. I have a really exciting project coming up which I'm going to film, so that'll be great. Yeah, well, that's it for now, guys. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed it. I will leave links down below for all the stuff, and yeah, I'll see you later. Bye.